Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Friday night. It is about 10:30 p.m. here, Friday night, July 5th, 2024. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 2.3 into the area of the Clear Lake Volcanic field. Of course, this is all a bunch of hydrothermal operations out here. Whole process involved in making energy, creating energy. There's quite a few of these power plants out here, and it also involves some earthquake activity within that process that's made to create some energy out there. All right, looking out and about here, as far as the Pacific Northwest and offshore, looks like our last earthquake here off the coast of Canada, Canadian coast here, is a 5.0 from early this morning. Now that is on the Juan de Fuca Ridge, and there's an interesting article here. I don't know if I covered this specifically last night, but in this article that's put out about the Juan de Fuca Ridge, much of the force that leads oceanic plates to subduct beneath the North American plate is generated by a ridge system or divergent zone where all that earthquake activity is occurring. The largest ridge in the Vancouver region is the Juan de Fuca Ridge, located between the Mid-Pacific Rise and the Juan de Fuca Fault. So, we get a lot of elevated activity there along the Cascadia when we see elevated movement along this ridge here. That's the Juan de Fuca Ridge right there. So obviously keeping an eye on this region up here, the northern edge of the Cascadia subduction zone. A couple other articles here that I find interesting here by the Hinman 2010 article. These guys are stating that the full rupture megathrust earthquake along the Cascadia ranges from about 250 to 900 years. That's a long time. That's more of a lengthy one than I've heard. But Roger has related that the width and the length of rupture of different segments along the subduction zone to estimate the maximum magnitude of future quakes. He determined that there could be a magnitude 8.5 earthquake along the Explorer segment, and that's where we've been seeing the elevated earthquake activity just prior to the subduction zone here. Let me bring up the last 7 days so you guys can see all that movement there in the ridge, adding strain up here against the northern edge of the Cascadia. So that's the Explorer segment, a magnitude 9.1 along the Juan de Fuca segment, which is obviously a little bit larger one right here. And then you got the Gorda plate down here, right, which is capable, that's the southern end of the Cascadia, and that's capable of producing an 8.3 partial rupture. So, hard to say. I wasn't around here back in 1700, but that's when the last big earthquake struck out here along the Cascadia, and it's interesting to watch the swarming that's been going on here over the past couple days. Let's check out, we'll get to this activity here around Mount Rainier in a little bit, but let's look at the tremor map here tonight, see if we got any elevated tremor along this area. It doesn't look like it. In fact, the 388 epicenters of tremor are down here on the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Still, though, quite the uptick in tremor. It began about 5 weeks or so ago. We've seen a fairly decent large uptick. This is just the last month right here. We can go back another week, maybe a week and a half, and that could add on some further tremor. But just in the last 30 days, 11,389 epicenters of tremor, mainly at the southern end. There was some activity here at the northern end following all that movement offshore into the Juan de Fuca Ridge. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Mount Rainier, see what we got here. Still looks like a little bit of earthquake activity, although it halted around 6 o'clock this morning. Haven't really seen anything since then. So let's just double check, right? I do want to make sure. Let's go over to the volcanic seismicity for Mount Rainier, and we'll check out a seismograph station here, see what's going on around this volcano, around the Camp Muir area. Well, let me go back to the last previous run. I wonder if it's here. Hello. So there's the last previous run. There's some of those earthquakes. Hard to decipher on if this is earthquake activity as well. It looks a little odd. Could be earthquake activity. And this is in the last few hours. So it does look like we still have a little bit of movement going on here. Very small earthquake activity. But some of that movement not being reported. It looks like they stopped reporting at about 6 o'clock this morning here, local time. Mount St. Helens, looks like one little lonesome earthquake there from this morning. Let's check out that seismograph station there in the area for Mount St. Helens, see what we have. Of course, this area has been a little bit more active than Mount Rainier here recently. All right, there's a little spike of an earthquake here within the last 20 minutes or so, it looks like. That red one. Previous to that, handful of quakes out there. You guys see that? Those are going to be earthquakes, very spiky ones. Those are localized seismic activity. This other noise, well, these are S waves. I believe that's from that 5-pointer off the coast there of the Vancouver Island ranges from this morning. But there's definitely some earthquake activity still out there. One earthquake being reported. A little bit more than that showing up there on the seismograph. Montana, of course, they did see that 3.9 early this morning. A handful of smaller aftershocks following that 3.9. Really nothing big going on there for now. Just a little earthquake activity. Yellowstone National Park. Looks like a handful of smaller quakes there. So let's see what we have. This is going to be the Yellowstone overview. By the way, that large signature that you're seeing of an earthquake is actually that 3.9 up into Montana. I believe that's a little bit bigger than the 3.9 though. To make that type of signal, I think it was about 150 miles away, where that earthquake struck up there in Montana, way up here. 3.9 made that type of signature here in Yellowstone, so I think it's a little bit bigger than that. Since then, not a whole lot of earthquake activity. I do see one localized here in the last hour or so. Not a big one. Just a very small earthquake. I think USGS reported it. Let me see here. Well, no. These are from earlier this afternoon, and that earthquake activity there on the graph is recent. This little one right here. That's a localized quake, though. All right, let's see what else we got scattered out and about here. Really nothing across the rest of the country. California-wise, still seeing some movement here along the creeping segment. A couple ones out there, nothing big. These guys are probably coming up here for a 6-pointer soon around the Parkfield section. Seems like that kicks up here on a regular occurrence. Been a little while since we've seen anything specifically of that size there. Southern California, about the same as what the update pointed out this morning. Really nothing big going on. No major swarm. A little bit of earthquake activity here outside the Salton City area. A couple ones coming in earlier this evening. But the San Andreas Fault, the southern segment there, sleeps for now. That's a very good thing. Far as Hawaii goes, still got a little bit of movement up around the summit area. The latest one at 1.8. Let's go check out some deformation charts real quick, and then we will move on. The Volcano still currently sitting at a yellow and advisory. Earthquake activity in general looks like it has calmed down a little bit, but you know we're still quite inflated underneath the area. It's just kind of a waiting game right now, and according to this graph here, we're still going up. Looks like it's gone a little bit different, you know, from that reset that they did here a few days ago. I'm guessing maybe they, you know, I don't know the entire reason why they did that, but they did, and it's very obvious out here. Either way, it still looks like we're going up in terms of inflation, just not quite that up and down pattern that has been pretty consistent here recently. Still at the highest level observed since 2018, since the 2018 eruption there at the summit area. So we're really inflated. Just a matter of time here before we see something of significance going on. All right, up into the Alaska area, handful of earthquakes outside of Anchorage. Really nothing big going on. 2s and 1s. Trail of earthquakes across the Aleutian Trench. This earthquake there in Japan, 235 kilometers deep underneath this area into the southern end of the Kuril Kamchatka. Aside from that, got some earthquake activity out here, but this is almost always happening. Almost always getting 4s and 3s out here in this area of the cluster crunch zone, so to speak. Pretty quiet out here across Papua New Guinea and the Vanuatu region. New Zealand still seeing a little bit of deeper activity here underneath North Island. Aside from that, folks, trying to think here. We did have some earthquake activity underneath Iceland. Well, actually just along the rift zone here. We'll check that out in just a second. Middle America Trench looks fairly normal in terms of earthquake multitudes. Nothing big going on down there. Just 3s, and it looks like there was some 4 stirring up here, but nothing showing up on the USGS map. Down here in South America, we do have quite a few 4s, and obviously some other smaller quake activity here. But again, that's normal for a major subduction zone. Let's see here. Where did my Iceland earthquake map go? I think this is it. Double check. The earthquake activity in question looks like it's been over 12 hours here, but did have some 2s and 3s stirring up down here across the rift boundaries south of the Reykjanes Ridge out here, where we've seen our most recent activity there outside of Grindavik and the Svartsengi area. Looks pretty quiet there for earthquake activity now. Of course, the charts out here in Iceland still going up and up and up in terms of inflation, and that's we're eventually going to come back to another eruption out here. It just takes a little time for enough magma to build up down below. As you can see, this is the vertical displacement up, and that's what we're doing. We're trending up once again. Space weather activity. Well, the Earth-facing side right now is fairly quiet. We do have a couple different sunspots out here getting ready to drift off on the western limb. And there's a newer region out here across the eastern limb here that's showing a little bit of complexity going on here. This looks quite more active than what we've seen from these little other sunspots while they were facing the Earth. That's going to be 3738, a new member coming around the eastern limb. And yeah, 3738 is going to be right here. But those aren't the big sunspot group that I'm looking forward to here in the next couple days. We should get a little bit better perspective of these sunspots once they drift here a little bit closer on the eastern limb. There, see that darker region out here? Those are, they were 3713, 3712 the last time they were around here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. It still looks fairly large. Hard to say exactly if it's going to be a very active region or not, but again, we'll get a little bit better view of it here in the coming days. Overall threat right now, 35% chance for M-flare. X-flare still remains at 5%, and C-flare around 99% chance or so. No major auroras in the forecast here, folks. Fairly green across the board, indicating very slow in the aurora world. All right, so we have a hurricane to talk. Well, let's see. Is it back to hurricane status or is it still tropical storm? Let's go see here. Still tropical storm, Beryl. It did weaken quite a bit there, moving through the Yucatan area of the Mexico region. We got maximum sustained winds of 60 miles per hour. It got shredded, lost a lot of its intensity, but as you can see here, it's got a little distance to go from its current position up to the Texas coast here, where we are looking at a hurricane watch in effect for a good portion here of the southern coast of Texas. It is expected to rapidly intensify here in the coming days. Well, it looks like landfall potentially is going to be sometime late Sunday night, early Monday morning, and then weaken off drastically after that. But you notice these weather models here have been trending definitely northward Originally, when we looked at this a couple days ago, it was showing it dissipating off here in Mexico, but now we have to worry about this because we have the potential of seeing maybe a decent-sized hurricane trending here into the southern areas of Texas coastline. Most of the weather models forecasting it around the low-grade Category 1 around landfall, and then weakening drastically after that. Here's the spaghetti models. It is, most of them are trending with a sharp northeastward turn here. So Texas is going to get hit big time with this system. The question is, how big is it going to be? Let's check out the forecast models here and take a look at Beryl. Now this is going to position itself on, let's see here. I wonder if I can put this into motion here a little bit and see what we got. Here's the Texas. It's really hard to see here. Texas coastline coming up right there in the darker colors right there. So look at that. It's definitely getting some organization going on before making landfall there. Really tightening up. Look at that pressure way down there. So this thing could be potentially above a Category 1. Just looking at some of these weather models before landfall, right about there. I'm going to back out here and go to a let me check out the ECMWF model. I do want to check South Central U.S. area. It does look like a landfall right around, goodness, what is that area right there? Definitely west of Houston. There's Galveston area. Looks like it's in between the Corpus Christi area and Galveston, right around this area right here for a landfall. Maybe a little bit further up north. This looks like it may be getting darn close there to the Galveston area. So again, we'll have to watch it because that's a little scary. It can rapidly intensify out here and produce, look at all that rain. I mean, there's going to be a lot of rainfall associated with this. Not to mention the storm surge. So this is going to be something to watch pretty closely. Either way, there's hurricane watches up here in effect right now. Total accumulated precipitation run. There's the pretty much follow the hurricane as it heads northward, but yeah, these guys are going to get quite a bit of rain. ECMWF model. Yeah, I should have used this as a little bit better to see exactly where they're forecasting this thing to hit directly. At least this weather model anyway. And yeah, wow, that almost takes it directly into the Houston area, Lake Jackson. I was just down here last month. Beautiful area. I absolutely love the Gulf here, and go down here a couple times a year actually. And yeah, that's not a good sign there for the Houston, Lake Jackson area. And if this thing rapidly intensifies here, we could be looking at some obviously evacuation activity going on. That's the ECMWF. The GFS model here shows a little bit more southward here. Notice that just in between the Corpus Christi area and Lake Jackson with the landfall right around here. You can see that rotation with the cyclone, and that's quite a difference, right, between the ECMWF and the GFS. I don't think the HRR model goes out that far. But even so, yeah, this only goes out until about Sunday night. This one almost looks like it's going to go right about here, around the Corpus Christi area. Either way, got to watch it over the next 24 hours is going to be pretty important to watch and see how quick this intensifies, and then we'll go from there. So here is their forecast track line here in the dark line. See, this one that they're forecasting here looks like it's in between Lake Jackson and the Galveston area over here. So who knows? I mean, we'll have to see what this what it really wants to do. Forecast models are one thing, but things can change. A number of factors, how strong this will intensify, but it is expected to reach hurricane status before landfall here once again. Movement west-northwest at about 13 miles an hour. Tropical storm Beryl, but it's not going to stay a tropical storm for long. Sunday night. But we'll watch tomorrow and see what happens, see if this thing rapidly intensifies. Peak storm surge out here. Looks like up to 5 feet. Around Galveston Bay, 2 to 4 feet. And as you can see, up and down the coastline out here. Decent storm surge kicking up. All right, folks, I'm out of here. I am ready for a little bit of sleep. We hit 116 degrees today, but man, we have a lot of rice fields around us, and humidity and dew point was just cooking out here today in Northern California. At one point I had on my weather model here that the feels like temperature was 150 degrees because of the high elevated dew point from all these rice fields cooking out here like a stew. And tomorrow's supposed to be the peak. It's supposed to be another hot one. I think it's supposed to be about the same, 117 or so for tomorrow. Let's see what we got. 118. So this will be a big test tomorrow. See if it actually gets up this high. 118 in Chico, 120 up in Redding. Look at these, 120 Corning, 122 in Anderson. Yikes. And it really doesn't cool off that much, folks. I mean, we go down from 118 to 111, and it's like this all the way into next week. Look at that. There's really no signs of relief. Maybe on Saturday, we got 100 degrees or so, 104. Wow, what a cool down. But we notice that delta breeze coming in here. That's good. Hopefully that cools us off a little bit. It does look like some troughing pattern going on here. But we'll have to watch that. That's way, not this weekend, but next weekend there on the 13th. I'll take a little bit of cooler weather, trust me. I'm just about done. The heat can really have a negative effect on your well-being, that's for sure. 2.0 coming in right now to the Washington area near White Swan. Out here in the mountains, it looks like. Very shallow earthquake. So we'll just continue to watch things, folks. See if anything else pops up here off the area of the Juan de Fuca Ridge. Remember, all the subductions taking place mainly, they said, because of ridge activity, pushing this plate further underneath the area to the east. North American plate right here. The Cascadia megathrust is right there on that line, and it goes underneath the North American plate here. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you guys back out here in the morning. The weekend is upon us, and it's going to be another hot one. Take care, folks. I'm going to sleep.